Hello and welcome to Gallery Watch. We have a very special episode for you today as we're spending time with award-winning international artist Jason Benjamin. His exhibition at Baratti Fine Art Studio in North Fremantle is entitled Awoke in Light. Welcome, Jason Benjamin, back to Perth. What a fantastic exhibition you have here tonight.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's awesome, really awesome to be back here. Thank you.
I believe these pieces were started in China. Can you tell me what you were doing there and the circumstances and influences?
Much of my work, certainly for the last at least 10 years, to be honest. I mean, I could say longer, but anyway, has been influenced by 17th century Chinese and Japanese. And I've also exhibited in Tokyo many, many times. So I've spent a lot of time in Japan, actually, but I hadn't in China. So I thought, well, right, it's time to go to the other source. And I applied for and was accepted into a residency under the Redgate Gallery program. And that took me to a... well, unbeknownst to me, to be honest, when I was accepted, I thought, let's pop the corks or something. But it took me to a village north of Beijing that was, let's just say, challenging. Contemporary Chinese art, of course, is everything's about post-revolution, cultural revolution. And while I understood that from being there, I don't know, selfishly, I was really sad that I couldn't see this or grasp more physically. And practicing calligraphy is a big thing to me. And every time I paint a blade of grass or a line, I look at the water, that's how I paint the water as well, is the same. In that they take ages. And it's really disciplined, and I have to sit there with a straight back and sort of... Likewise, my little bee here, it's the same. It's reliving, reawakening, actually, is probably the word.
Your work's sort of been different, though, if you had have been able to get your hands on what you were really looking for there.
That's a really good question. I actually do think that it's the absence that propels you forward. You know, that you feel like, you didn't catch the fish. You want to go out further. You want to. When I look at work, even in books, obviously I've seen some of this work in other museums, indeed around the world, and honestly, to see them close up, they're obviously under glass often because they're so delicate.
And can you explain a little bit about how the transition between the pieces now, how they are quite light, and you mentioned previously that a lot of your other work was quite dark.
True. It was just, I don't know, I was sick of myself.
Time for a change.
In a big way, yeah. the place changed me. It wasn't about me changing. That's the honest truth.
And where is your favourite place to work and paint?
Well, I love the idea of, I've always felt that my work, whether I feel it and is it so, we don't know. But I've always felt that it has a cinematic element. It's certainly, that's the way I go to ridiculous lengths of editing all this and to make the room feel like a whole, as though you've walked into almost the cinema. And so you can walk around the room, take it in with a sense of continuity, at least, at the very least, hopefully more. But a sense of uplift and pathos, and then you've fallen back in love by the time you walk out the door. That's what I would ideally I'd like. This other light and this other place is allowed so much. I don't know. It feels liberating, and I just hope people. Well, I assume that no one really knows or cares. Is my first feeling when I'm walking in here tonight, right? But hopefully, that it's become self-evident. Yeah, I'm hoping that I've done my job. My job is to make that happen, and if I think having something still tangible, so you could walk out on that low tide over there, or
people can relate to it a lot more, I think.
Yeah, in a really simple kind of cool way. I approach this obviously I'm sure, with too much seriousness. So in the end of the day, I'd like it to be as light as a opening window. Just.
So Jason, these paintings behind us were done while you were in the Northwest. Can you tell me a little bit about the time that you spent there?
Yes, it came about as a complete surprise. I was invited on a research trip following the steps of the explorer Ludwig Leichhardt, which I will admit I was ignorant of his unbelievable life. I went on to study before I went on the trip. I read about him extensively, and what a man. A Prussian. He left from essentially Brisbane to it found what was going to be Darwin. To experience this man, he's become a muse to me in that. Well, I was sick of myself, first of all, in my own work, absolutely. Who wouldn't be? But this guy is far more intelligent and more enigmatic and more, just ticked every box for me as a human being. He seemed to understand innately that the Aboriginal approach to land is more enduring than the West. Like, straight off, Mind you, once you get stuck out in the bush, it doesn't take long to figure that out, but the fact that he embraced that so readily. What fascinates me about this is that he was alone. His men were basically mutinous, they couldn't stand him. A 6'6" Prussian who hangs out with the Aboriginal guys, they just thought he's a lunatic. I'm a dreamer, and I'm a romantic. I hate using that word, but I am. And so was Leichhardt in a way. So I just kept picturing him walking around these places because they had time to kill. They had a month before the ship would come to do that. That was whatever the time frame that would take them back to Sydney. And yet he was isolated from his friends, and he's walking around there. Well, knowing that he's done this great thing, but yet just seeing the same exact things that I was looking at. I don't know, there's something, I just kept, every time I'd go to paint something, I kept thinking about Leichhardt and what he would feel? Well, what was he? So he was just like the rest of us, kicking around with time to kill, dreaming, you know. Work on the drawing, the initial drawing. I give it a wash, which can sometimes wipe away enormous amounts of effort, which drives me, you know. But you have to risk something to get something good, I believe. So you let that dry and you go, oh my God, there's hardly anything left. But there's all this ghost stuff that's going on, and it's just like, because it's really heavy handmade paper. It doesn't. That's the thing. I like the fact that you won't know what you're getting. You know what you're getting with the drawing. You won't know once you add some water and pigment. It's off. All bets are off. They are so exactly like the way I approached etching for many years. Yeah.
Well, don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this very short break.